Hi, welcome to The Brew. I'm Amber Norton.
And I'm Teresa Kyle.
And we have such an exciting episode for you today, being that it's February.
And love is in the air.
Love is in the air. Valentine's Day is coming up. I think that for many of us, we start thinking about relationships, maybe the relationship that we're in or not in, or whether or not we even need a relationship. I know that in some cases, Valentine's Day can be a sore subject in some cases, but we have on with us Doreen Steenland. She is the owner of Full Living Life Coach.
Living Full
Life Coach. And I invited her on, and you're one of the first people that I even thought of when we started this show, just to back up on how we ended up meeting, is I heard you speak about raising kids and also relationships at a small gathering. And I was just blown away about your perspective, not only how to approach situations with your kids and just normal day-to-day life, but more specifically on how you can approach your relationship with your spouse. So I'm just stoked to have you here. I know that we're really excited.
Thank you for having me.
So when me and Teresa were doing some research on this show, we looked at some of the things that women want during Valentine's Day, and then we also asked some men on what they want during Valentine's Day. And needless to say, when we looked at the list for the women was...
Oh, we could have written a thousand page essay with the list of what women wanted.
Yes.
And I think my list for men was 4 words.
4 words. That's all it was. So we always think that we're the simple ones, but I don't think that's the case.
I think we're learning through the process that we're the complicated ones.
That's exactly right. So, Doreen, we brought you here because we wanted to talk a little bit about being in a relationship and how you can grow in your relationship and how you can talk to your spouse or even begin a relationship and really how you can grow into that. So, we feel like you're the expert in this and we're ready to just learn from you. What is your best approach during this time in Valentine's Day and just really showing your spouse or your loved ones how much you appreciate them?
Wow, great question. I think the first thing that's really important for us to remember is that we need to be mindful that we're not phubbing our spouses.
What do you mean by phubbing?
Phubbing is snubbing our spouses with our phones.
Ooh,
that's a good one.
That's actually number 1 on my list, but I like your word better.
It is tough because everyone's got phones these days, and what we're saying when we're on the phone and we're with someone else is that what's happening on the internet and in cyberspace is more important than what's happening right in front of us. So it's important when we're out to dinner or we're on a date, especially for Valentine's Day, with our spouses or our boyfriends, that we make a pact. Let's put the phones down and give each other our attention.
In this day and age too, there's so much out there, social media and Facebook, Instagram. And I love that you said that because I can't even count how many times that I've been out to dinner and looked over at another table and both people have their phones out. It's actually pretty sad.
Yes. And we miss so much when we're not looking people in the eyes. We miss their body language. We miss the tone of their voice. We're missing great blessings by not looking at people.
And even though you feel it's very innocent, I'm sure that if you feel like you're not being paid attention to over even dinner or anything, I mean, I'm sure that can put some sort of knock on your ego and feel like you're not important.
Yes. And how our brains work is that when we sense that there's a threat to us personally, we respond with either fight, flight, or freeze. So
what do you mean by that?
Okay, so when we have a stressor and we feel as though our status is threatened or our autonomy or a sense of fairness, there's several things that could be threatened. Our brain responds the same way all the time. It chooses the easiest path. So when you were young, if you were the kind of person when there was conflict, you ran to your room and slammed the door. you flee.
Yeah, exactly.
You run away
My
from
kids do that.
conflict, right? But if you're the kind of person that gets angry, that's going to be the response that's your go-to response. And our brain has these pathways, and these pathways are well-worn pathways. And the brain chooses the easiest route every time. So when we are poked by whatever the offense is, we tend to go immediately to that automatic response. It happens without thinking,
Yeah.
and it causes conflicts and fights.
So that's one of my things too, is learning how to approach your feelings and do it in a way where you're heard, but also not starting a fight. Like, what are some of your recommendations in a situation where you do feel like you're being poked or provoked or not paid attention to? What would you advise on how to express yourself in that, where you are being heard?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to pause. We need to take a moment to collect our own emotions, because a lot of times we just want to react. So if we'll often feel it in our body. Mm-hmm. We'll feel our neck getting tight. We'll feel our stomach turning. We'll feel our clenching.
Yeah,
clenching of the jaw. Whatever our physical symptom is, notice the physical symptom and say to yourself, stop. What that does is it presses a reset in your brain and allows you to start thinking, right? And I think that when we communicate with our spouses, the safest way to do it is the XYZ communication method. And I'll give you a little example. When we are at dinner and you are on the phone, I feel excluded, right? So you're stating what the situation is and how it happened and how you feel.
Right.
You're not accusing, you're not name calling, you're not criticizing or badgering, you're just stating plainly how you feel. And if you're in a loving relationship, that should be respected and honored.
Yeah.
And there should be some dialogue back and forth. Now, granted, not everyone's in a healthy relationship, and obviously they need a little more help than the average person. But for the average person, just instituting some of these techniques are really helpful.
Absolutely.
That was very helpful.
I think so too.
And you can take that same phrase or the same situation and word it different, and how different would the end result be?
Yes.
Like, for example, you're always on your phone.
Yes.
Now that's an attack, and it puts the other person in a defense.
Correct.
Where that's brilliant and so simple.
That is really
So
good. Yes. When you say you always, or you never, or you are this, that, or the other thing. Whenever you start with the word you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, no kidding.
You're in trouble.
I could see that. So on the flip side, and I know that, instead of putting yourself in a situation where you have to figure out how not to argue, how do you grow and continue to grow as a couple, especially for people that have been in a relationship for a long time, to keep that relationship growing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number one thing that you need to figure out how to do is learn how to listen. Listening is really important. Oftentimes we listen thinking of what we're going to say in response. So we're not really fully hearing and understanding. But when we listen with curiosity and we listen to understand what's happening with the person, what's happening underneath the words with their emotions potentially, there's a depth and an intimacy to that grows over time. And when you've shown yourself to be a safe place where people can share their emotions authentically, your relationships will grow and deepen.
So it's being able to share how you're feeling and having that person listen to how you're feeling and respect that.
Yeah. Mutual respect is huge, because whenever someone doesn't feel respected, the brain also triggers again that this is a threat, this is danger. And so it responds in that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism once again. So you need to be mindful of our words. We need to when we're speaking to our spouses or our loved ones, we need to be thinking that we are holding their hearts in our hands.
Ah,
You know, it's a good visual, right?
It absolutely
that,
is.
That you can break their heart with just the wrong word. You can create all kinds of damage in their heart and a lot of baggage if you don't choose your words kindly and properly.
that's a
Powerful.
big, yeah, no kidding. That's a very big visual to have. So I think if we have that in our minds when someone is talking to you and expressing, I feel like your approach to them, whatever that may be, might be
Yes.
softer
Yeah.
and more mindful of that.
Yeah, and another tip is just try and remember that you're not enemies. Sometimes we're together in relationships for a long time, and what drew us together were the differences. But then after a while, those differences start to become irritants, and so we need to remember that we chose this person because of those differences, and those differences were beautiful to us, and that's what makes them unique. So we need to remember that, and remember that we're not enemies, we're on the same team. And when teammates are fighting, they're not going to win.
Right, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to share more information just about relationships and talk to Doreen a little bit more on what she can share with us. So stay tuned.
Or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Welcome back. I'm Amber Norton.
Teresa Kyle.
And we're here with Doreen, and we talked a lot about relationships and it being February and just how love is in the air. A lot of things that you shared with us during the last segment was so powerful, and I took notes in my mind about some of the things that I'm going to implement at home too. So prior to you coming on, we actually asked our audience about things that they struggle with in their relationships, things that they feel like they would like to change, and we actually got a few comments from people that didn't want a relationship romantically. I mean, there's many different relationships, but romantic relationships, they were focused more on children, family. We also had a comment from Tamara that too strong of a woman in order to have a relationship, and she's not looking to focus her time there. Men are intimidated by her. So we thought that was really interesting, because I think whenever we think about Valentine's Day, we're always focusing on relationships, but there are many relationships out there that we should be worried about. And what if there are people that feel like they're fine on their own? So I know that you don't only coach couples or people as a unit. You know, how do you approach somebody that's coming to you just to feel better and get some life coaching from you as an individual?
Great question. Life coaching is really cool. It's a lot different than counseling. What life coaches do is they ask powerful questions to get to what's at the heart of who you were made to be. What makes you tick? To figure out how you use your strengths the best, and what things might be triggers for you so that you could be successful.
And it's so funny, because I think that we are in a world of comparison right now.
Yes.
And it can be detrimental, and they say that comparison is a joy killer, because you're comparing yourself to others. And I feel like there are many of us out there trying to figure out who we are. And you know, there's someone that we see on social media that is doing something different, and should I be that person, and try to mirror people that they're just not. So I'm sure that a lot of people come to you trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do with their lives, because not everybody has it figured out.
That's true.
Any age. So when you sit down with somebody and ask those powerful questions, what kind of advice do you give them on keeping relationships, not only romantically, but how they keep relationships with their children and how to make those relationships better? Because I'm sure that's something that you also counsel on.
Yes, and a lot of the techniques that we talked about earlier in this segment can be applied to children as well. I run a workshop called Parenting with Intention, and that workshop is for parents to learn how to manage their own emotions and to train their kids to learn how to manage their emotions, learn how to make powerful decisions.
Yeah.
I think that these days our kids are having difficulty making decisions, and
Why do you think that is?
I think there's so much stimuli
Yeah, you're
with
absolutely
social
right.
media, with all of the activities, and a lot of parents are doing a lot more for their kids than they should be. And so we're not really equipping our kids to be thinkers.
This is problem
So
solvers.
true.
Problem
Absolutely.
solvers or thinkers, right? We're not really equipping them. So what this workshop does is it equips parents with the tools they need to help their children learn how to manage their emotions, be thinkers and problem solvers, and be world changers. Because face it, that's what we want for our kids. We want them to be world changers. We want them to make a difference. And I feel like what we're doing is not working in a lot of ways.
It's so interesting you say that, because I feel that the minute that you said I'm thinking about all those things too, and I see it where, you know, they call it helicopter parents now, right?
Yes.
Where, you know, when I was younger, my parents or my mother didn't accompany on all my play dates or come with me on everything
Yes.
that there was. And not to say that it's wrong or bad. It's a different way of life than
Yes.
many years ago. And I think it's just more of hand-holding our kids and maybe not giving them the chance to grow a little bit.
Well, there's so much involvement, even the connectabilities of the phones. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
we had to trust our children to come back at a certain time 20, 30 years ago, and now we have access to them 24/7.
Yes, and everyone has access to them
To everyone.
24/7. It's a super big problem. But what we're missing is our kids learn through play. They learn through conflicts with their peers. They learn social engagement. And when we step in to take over in their conflicts and we step in to solve all of their problems, they're not really having the opportunity to learn. So then we send them off to college and say bye-bye, and they don't talk to you. The college administrators do not talk to you about what's going on with your kids, and they're really not equipped to handle the problems. So this is something that we need to consider as a society, how we're going to go back to equipping our kids to be problem solvers and to think.
And you think that, that being said, and we talked a lot about relationships with our spouses and just relationships, but I mean, we are growing and raising kids to eventually be adults, to have romantic relationships.
Yes.
So, I mean, all of that is tied in on how, are they going to be that person when they're older at the dinner table with their spouse on the phone?
Yes.
It's making sure that they're equipped to have that personal touch with somebody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to speak a second to the person who continues to run into problems finding someone that is willing to accept them how they are.
Absolutely, please.
And I don't remember her name.
Tamara.
Tamara. Okay, so what I would say to Tamara is that just like our brains are choosing the same pathways all the time, I'm wondering if Tamara is choosing the same type of man all the time.
Huh.
And I wonder what would happen if Tamara chose somebody the complete opposite of her type.
Right.
What would happen? And I'll put that challenge out to her to give that a shot.
Yeah.
If you want to date with somebody complete opposite
Right.
than you would expect to date, than
Right.
is your type. See what happens, because that's exactly what happened with me and my husband. I was challenged picking the bad boys all the time.
I feel like
picking the
most of us
bad
are like
boys.
that. Yeah.
So I was challenged by someone to choose somebody the total opposite. And we've been together for 25 years,
Wow.
married for 25 years, together for 29. And it was really good advice.
And I'm sure that you were resistant in that. In the
I was
beginning.
so resistant because it was uncomfortable to change.
Right.
It's uncomfortable to try something new.
And it's so funny that you say that, because in anticipation of the show, I had listened and just did some research, and one of the things that I read is having an open mind and having a mind that's always looking to grow.
Yes.
And that kind of talks to that a little bit. If you are stuck in your ways and stuck in a particular type of person, you're not letting yourself grow or even experience maybe somebody that's good for you.
Yes, you don't really know what you're missing, right?
Right, exactly.
You don't know what you're missing. And being able to grow and change and learn new things is part of going back to the listening.
Right.
Being curious about what other people think and feel, and really just listening deeply to them to see what is going on. And that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we're challenged. If we just do the same thing we've always done, we're going to
Nothing's
end
gonna
up with a
change.
mundane life.
Right.
And we all want to have a peaceful and powerful life. We want to leave a legacy. We want to make a difference.
Right.
And so life coaching helps with that. It helps to get you to think outside the box and think of things a little differently, from a different perspective than you had in the past.
I love that. And you do a lot of workshops. We're about to wrap up, but I would
Okay.
love for you to share with the audience on how to get in touch with you, and then any events that are coming up, because I of course always love hearing you speak. You always open
Thank
my
you.
mind to different perspectives. So
Thank you, ladies.
feel free to share with the audience on how they can get in touch with you.
Thank you. You can find me on livingfulllifecoaching.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Living Full Life Coaching. My name is Doreen Steenland, and I have a few workshops coming up. One is the Parenting with Intention workshop for parents of teens and tweens. And
I need that
that's
one.
a tongue tire. Anyway, these workshops are being held on Zoom, which is a virtual online classroom. It's really cool. You'll develop relationships with others like you. I'm also running a workshop in March on mindset to help to change your negative thinking into
love
positive
that.
thinking. So we'd love to have you come. You can register on livingfulllifecoaching.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's just
Thanks.
a pleasure for you to come here and speak, and we're really excited that you got to share so many things with us that I know that I took mental notes.
Oh, it's so informative.
Very
Thank you
informative.
so much.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
coming
having
in.
me.
Of course. So we're going to be back next week with a new guest, and reach out to Doreen. She's wonderful, and be sure to get some tickets for her conferences. I'm sure that she has some even more amazing news or information that she can share with you during those. So thanks for stopping in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.